GM, Hot Takes and Cold Wallets, episode 23. We got Juan and Patrick here tonight. How you doing, gentlemen?
Hey, Winnie. Yeah, doing great. Sunny day here in Buenos Aires, Argentina, so pretty happy to be here.
Yeah, also doing great. It's a cloudy day here in Boston, but that's pretty typical, so all good. But yeah, doing well. Excited to be on.
The lighting looks good on you, Patrick.
I appreciate it.
So we don't see the clouds yet.
Yeah. Works out.
That's nice. Those of you who don't know Patrick, he's the co-founder of Cyfrin. We're gonna get into that like a little bit later on. But Juan, just for you to recap the latest from ChainPatrol, we always start with this during the episodes. So you guys have been visiting a few conferences the last few days. Consensus Miami was one of them, and also like the Safeguard event. Any updates from the ChainPatrol side?
Well, it has been like pretty hectic week, I would say. Pretty much we need to split the team between the two conferences, and we actually have other conference that we attended that are like outside those two as well. So definitely things getting like I would say a bit hectic, but things really going really, really well. Safeguard actually, well, Nikita and Connor from our team went there. Was pretty interesting to see like a different scope. Those was mostly like a Web2 conferences, and we met with a lot of like business leaders, security teams, CISOs across all the different industries. So really quite interesting experience based on what you mentioned. And consensus, I will say, at least for me, that it's like the third conference that I went to crypto this year, was definitely the biggest one. I saw a lot of people. The booth on the main event were definitely bigger and bigger size, bigger, I would say, expenditure in general, and also the quality of conversations were like pretty good. So yeah, and also you can't forget about the Miami and the good weather that we have there. That also was quite amazing. So yeah, definitely was quite good. Still a lot of things happening on the back, a lot of development happening, a lot of new, I would say, scam scenarios that we are seeing, and we are detecting much more across all of the different clients. But yeah, things going really well. Trying to understand better the scope, and actually it was quite interesting that we didn't saw like any big hack between last week to this week. I think that's the first thing that we can say this in the last 6-7 weeks for sure. So yeah, that's actually really good.
Yeah, that's like the perfect introduction to Patrick. And Patrick, we're gonna talk about you and your background. The first thing I wanted to know about you is how did you decide that Web3 and development in Web3 would be a thing that you like, yeah, pick a focus on?
Yeah, great question. So I was working at a hedge fund. It's kind of like a really low level software engineer. And that's kind of where I learned about how just finance, big finance works in general. The hedge fund had like $32 billion assets under management. And I got to see a lot of the problems that comes with kind of traditional finance. And I went down this deep rabbit hole of finance. And I ended up leaving the hedge fund, working at a financial data company for a little bit. And they were approached by actually Chainlink, who was looking to bring, financial data on chain. And I remember at the time being like, you want to put financial data on Bitcoin? That doesn't make any sense, because I didn't know anything. And that's when I learned about smart contracts. And I basically was like mind blown. I was like, you can create these agreements where they're unbreakable. Like it doesn't matter if your counterparty is malicious, like whatever the contract says will be enforced, because code is like the code will just execute. This is insane. This is so cool. And I fell down the rabbit hole, and what is it, 6 years later, here we are, still doing it. And then to kind of go a little bit more down the journey, about a little bit over 3 years ago now, I was working at Chainlink Labs, and just like super excited. I was helping build these financial applications, bringing real world data on to build these financial applications, and just kept seeing hack over hack over hack over hack. And to this day, I think security is the number one hurdle blocking us from mainstream adoption, right? There's kind of this really unfortunate situation where protocol gets hacked, and the security industry is like, oh, you should have done blah 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 XYZ, but it's really, there's this systemic issue of security it's a disaster right now. If you look at the data, if we have 50-100 billion dollars in assets in DeFi, and 3 or 4 billion gets stolen a year, that we're talking like, 3% of all money in DeFi is getting hacked every year. If you go to a bank and you say, hey, I'd like to open a bank account, and they go, great, yeah, just FYI, there's a 3% chance that all your money's gone next year. There's no way in hell you're opening up a bank account with that bank. And that's what we're telling people. We're saying, hey, come to DeFi, the water's great. And it's not great. And it's because security is a big issue right now. And so for the last 3 years, we at Cyfrin have been fighting like hell to drop that percentage to get us to kind of be where banks are with security.
Was there a specific moment you realized that like developer education is like the part of the infrastructure and it's really needed?
There wasn't really a moment, but it's kind of always just been the way I approach problems and we approach problems at Cyfrin. When in software engineering, it's very tempting to say, oh, this was a one-off. Oh, that when the system broke, when the script broke, oh, it's a one-off. When usually there's like a higher level abstraction as to why that thing broke, or there's a higher level, there's a systemic issue. Maybe your CI/CD pipeline is broken. Maybe the way you've coded in a way where there's magic numbers. Maybe you don't have enough tests, etc. And so to me, the most common denominator of a lot of the hacks is especially when I got into security, when I started Cyfrin, a little over 3 years ago, was just the knowledge of, proper best practices. It was very bad. It was terrible, right? Like you'd go on rec.news and the top hacks would be like reentrancy. We've known about reentrancy for over 10 years now. Like, why are we still getting hacked by this? And there's all these best practices the security community has come up with, but it was kind of like behind this weird, like guarded wall. Like all these audit firms were like, oh, we have the alpha, we're so smart. But like shut up. If you're really smart, tell people like how to be safer, and teach people. And so at Cyfrin, we approach the problem of security from a systemic level. And we think education is just the best blanket way to raise all ships. The monetary aspect isn't quite as direct, which is why a lot of other groups don't do it. But we've seen a ton of we've seen a lot of progress in this, where like a lot of the bugs that we teach, every year those bugs become more and more rare because people know the best practices to avoid them. And it's great. Like when we at Cyfrin, when we do an audit, I can tell if you've gone through Cyfrin Updraft or not, because we'll get code bases that have stuff that I like yell in the course, hey, like don't ever do this. And I'm like, oh, they didn't go through my curriculum. And then we'll also have code bases that come to us and I'll like recognize the patterns that we teach. And I'm like, thank you. Like, this is great. Like this code is way harder to crack because you're using, best practices here.
Is there anything that keeps you personally motivated to do this educational content? Because I've been teaching like wallet security myself, which is kind of, you're repeating yourself over and over and over again. And from what you just said, like with the dev side of things, it kind of sounds pretty similar, to be honest. So what's your secret motivator to keep going with this?
Every time. So it's kind of that same like engineering mindset. So every time I read rec.news and I see a big hack, we take a lot of ownership, and like internally we go, okay, there was a big hack in the industry. Why did we not reach them? What did we do wrong? Why did our content not land on their front door? What could we have done better to reach this group that deployed this protocol? And I think naturally we've always just really wanted to help people and not want people to get wrecked. Obviously we have, there's a financial incentive too. Like every time we get hacked, every time this industry gets hacked, we are a step farther away from the whole world adopting it. So, when the Layer 0 hack or Kelp DAO hack happened recently, the Drift Protocol hack, these hundreds of millions of dollars of hacks that happen, every single time one of those happens, I go, shit, we just lost 6 months. We just lost. We're now 6 months farther behind. We're now a year farther behind. We're 2 years far. Bybit set us back years, right? Because the rest of the world looks at it and they go, this industry is a clown show. They don't have their shit together. So every time one of these hacks happen, that's like, shit, what do we need to do better? What can we do better? And yeah, if I work in this industry, I would like to make money in this industry. And if the rest of the world says this industry is stupid, that's not great for my pockets. But yeah, like we're always trying to help people. And it's, like I've seen the stories. I got people DMing me telling me about how they lost money in a protocol, or how they exposed their private key. And so there's like both sides of the coin. There's the emotional side, and there's the financial side. And I also just like making videos. It's fun for me. People have to listen to my jokes in order to get the content. So that's a pro for me.
I'm a huge fan of your videos, so
Oh,
that's
thanks,
why
man.
when I wanted to have you on in the show, like really, especially you, like the content you did around like the clear signing stuff that we're going to be talking about like in a few minutes. It was like pretty amazing. But on a general side of things, I'm interested. Like you teach devs how to code Solidity and how to start and how to get rolling. Do you think that people underestimate like how much responsibility they have when they are writing smart contracts?
Oh, I mean, definitely. Like it's very different from the rest of the world, right? Like, Facebook's mantra, move fast and break things, that doesn't work here. You can launch your website and have it be broken all over the place, and like nobody cares, because, oh no, like instead of showing a picture of a cat, you showed a picture of a dog. Like, oh no. In Web3, oh, like you made a mistake and now somebody lost their life savings. Like it's the consequences are unacceptably different and dire.
Juan, from a community perspective, do you think that Patrick's work, like especially Patrick's work with the teaching and the developing stuff, educational content for free, it actually helps the space move forward?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Patrick.
oh no, sorry, I thought that question was for me. My bad. All you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think like what Patrick mentioned, like on the hacks that put us the industry behind. Like actually, I was doubting about like, does DeFi make sense to have like this amount of risk on my own money by putting into the, like, I don't know, Aave. Before that, Aave was considered like the most secure protocol. Right now, I don't think anyone will tell you the same after the bank run that they have a few weeks ago. So definitely, I think the industry is interconnected. Bitcoin, it's not only like about like Bitcoin going up; it's about like us maturing as an ecosystem itself. And definitely, all these different hacks put us a lot of time behind. And it's not only on the awareness. I would say on the awareness of like, yeah, crypto is dangerous. Don't go in here. I lost my money and I'm not coming back from a user's perspective. But it's also about like how institutions see us. How can I do like a good partnership with the biggest companies, I would say, in Web2 or the fintechs or banks in general, if they consider us like as an unsafe environment to be. I think, of course, there are like different exemptions. Of course, we are seeing like much more institutional approach. But I think if we still getting these hacks in the next like 2 years, it will probably slow down in case not like accelerating this. So I think that definitely all the content that we can create on Patrick's work on this definitely moves our industry forward and not backwards.
Yeah, I've been commenting on X like the last few days where I told people like the DeFi risk reward ratio at the moment is like pretty much off. Like for the APYs you're getting, like it's insane to park money like in a big protocol. Even like, hey, what's gonna happen? No one knows, right? Because we have been talking about these hacks for weeks and weeks. Patrick, what do you think? Like the educational work you put into these devs, will that ultimately lead to less losses for the end users as well?
Definitely. I mean, we've already seen it, right? So we did some data where, like especially the bugs we cover in depth, since we started covering them, the amount of losses from those bugs has gone down. So definitely, and like even at a higher level, like just basic kind of best practices, same thing. Like those types of bugs are less and less, and we're seeing in 2026, more of the bugs that we see are less on the smart contract side and more on the OPSEC side, right? Or the like your multi-sig security, or like blind signing. That this is you talked about blind signing. This is why I've been raving about blind signing for so long, because hackers have kind of decided, hey, like people are actually getting pretty good as coding smart contracts, and I like to think, we're a part to thank for that. And now, in the age of AI, I'm like, all right, great, just point your agent at Updraft, and you'll be in much Cyfrin Updraft. That's our education product. For those who don't know, point your agent to Updraft, and you'll be, in better shape. And in fact, we know a lot of the agents are scraping Updraft because we look at our logs, and like OpenAI was like hammering us for a while. But yeah, so like the best, just coding with like good code smells is going to make you safer. And yeah, like more of the hacks we're seeing are like, oh, they hacked the website because somebody got social engineered, or they sent a malicious payload to your hardware wallet and nobody knows how to sign anything, so they know that you're going to just blindly sign it. Or they hacked into your cloud infrastructure by doing you clicking a malicious link on a phishing email, right? Just kind of like, stuff from the 80s and 90s that was working. Hackers have decided, hey, like that's, people are stupid. Like it's way easier to hack the human than hack the code. Let's just go back to that. And unfortunately, that's working really well.
Yeah, we talked about this a lot in the show as well, where we say that the human is always going to be the weakest link. And it's always going to be that way, right? I mean, with the acceleration of AI and like tools coming for your smart contracts, or even trying to find bugs that haven't been found for years or tens of years, maybe it's still gonna be like the human element that kind of is the one that's collapsing first, I guess. So Patrick, you kind of touched on how Cyfrin came to life and how you decided to do these things that you were doing for the last 3+ years now. What was the main goal when you founded Cyfrin? Like, was it like going into the education space, or were you going into the audit kind of things? Which way were you leaning in?
So Cyfrin is a security company. And the goal of Cyfrin is to make this industry safer by whatever means necessary. That is the goal of Cyfrin. So the two main products that we released since Cyfrin's inception have been with the goal to do that, right? So a lot of people have asked, like, oh, like Cyfrin, are you guys an education company or a security company? We're a security company. Education, from our point of view, is a critical piece that not enough people tackle. And so back in November in Dev Connect, we sat down with security companies from all across the industry for the Ethereum $1 trillion security initiative, like meetup, and like unanimously, everyone's like education, 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 education. And it's like, all right, cool. Like everyone else, like let's do education. And no hands go up because it's it's tougher to make money there, right? Or your marketing is marketing for education is totally different than marketing for security services. It's just it's just like it feels like a very different business. But from my perspective and from Cyfrin's perspective, it is an extension of what we do. When we do audits, when we do security reviews, we are telling these protocols, we're telling MetaMask, zkSync, Linea, any of the projects that we work with, we're teaching them, hey, here's what you can do to be safer moving forward. So I think even security researchers, are doing education. When any of Cyfrin's competitors put out an audit report, they are teaching the world, how to be safer. So that is why we created Cyfrin and said, hey, this industry is cooked if we don't solve the problem of security. I don't think people are solving it in the way that I would like them to. So we are going to do it.
Yeah, we talked about this a lot, like from the ChainPatrol side of things, they are doing brand protection as their main work. And I stated that security work basically is invisible. Like, good security work isn't seen, it's invisible for the average user, but just if something goes wrong, then it's like a huge upscream, and everyone says like, hey, we have a problem, hey, we need better like security measurements, etc. But if everything's just going fine and everything's running smoothly, then security is working as intended. But yeah, that's the main problem we have. And I wanted to like plug into that Cyfrin has Updraft and Solidity inside of the Ethereum security round right now, which is still running for 15 and more hours, I guess. ChainPatrol also has the documentation in there. Lights in Dark Rooms, which is like a scam compound documentation, which you can still like donate to. But Cyfrin is in the round as well. So if you decide, hey, like security tooling, security auditing, free educational resources are something that's like to be supported as it is, then you should go to the Giveth round and see if you can donate to these projects, because they are doing awesome work in the space, as you can hear from the space. Patrick, was free education part of your like security strategy, if you want to call it that way, or did it just come as it is?
So kind of my mantra has always been create value, figure out how to monetize later. We look at the space and we say, okay, where are there holes, and where does our kind of domain expertise lie? Education is something, I've always found fun, although the last like 6 months I've been doing a little bit less on the video side, trying to get our products up and going, which we can talk about in a little bit. But yeah, so it's really just like, okay, like we think we feel very strongly that, the world needs to come to consensus on like what the best practices are. We're going to teach those best practices, and we'll figure out how to monetize it later. So it was kind of a combination of like, all right, it's on our wheelhouse. It's something we do. And it's something we think the industry desperately needs. So that's basically how it came about.
Okay, if we want to close down the dev chapter right here, Patrick, what do you think is more dangerous? Having too little devs in the space, or devs that are undertrained and doing like many mistakes?
That's a good question. Too little or too many who haven't gone through updraft.
Exactly like
That's
that.
That's how I think about it. Probably. Sorry, what was that one?
No, tough question, I think. No,
Yeah. Okay, you know what? I think if so if we have a small number of developers, but they've all been through Cyfrin updraft, I would way rather that. I would 1,000% way rather that than like half the developers running around vibe coding garbage. I would 1,000% prefer a smaller group with who have gone through updraft than a lot of people who have not.
Did you ever get feedback on why people do not do the updraft program? Or why they quit and they're like, oh my god, Patrick is yelling at me all the time, I'm not going to do this.
well, usually we see it come out in different ways. So it's like, oh, why didn't you do updraft? So here's what has happened. So a protocol gets a bunch of VC funding, they launch something, they have no idea what they're doing, and then they get hacked, and then they'll come to us later, and then we'll ask, hey, like, why didn't you go through updraft? And they go, oh, we didn't know what that was. And so that's where I'm like, shit, I'm not doing enough marketing. Why didn't I reach these people? They didn't even know we existed. They didn't know we were the best way to protect them from getting hacked, just by having best practices. I think like it's very easy to be like, oh, these guys are malicious or stupid or whatever, but like there's sometimes like, hey, like they're trying to build something cool they didn't know, and like how do we as an industry get ahead and make sure that they know, hey, like there are best practices. We've gone through the ringer a few times. We've got some scars. How do we make sure they learn from those scars? And like this is kind of where I'm like, shit, what do we need to be doing enough? And so what do we need to be doing more so that we reach those people? And so, my ask for anybody who's watching is like, if you know somebody getting into the space and they're looking to launch some code and they haven't gone through the trainings, definitely say, hey, you are setting yourself up to get hacked. So please go through the trainings so that you know how to protect yourself. And when you do make a load of money, because I hope you do, I hope you come to this industry and I hope you make a shit ton of money. And I hope when you do make a shit ton of money, you've gone through Cyfrin updraft so that you can keep it. Because that's the difference.
That's the bottom line. Yeah.
So you learn how to keep it. You learn how to protect yourself to keep it.
Juan, I got a question for you. So from a community perspective, Usually when a project launches and they have like poor security, the community usually they only find out after something like went wrong or went to shit or whatever. Do you think that the community itself, they value like a company that pays attention to security and has the right things in mind that Patrick just talked about? Do you think that the community in Web3, where everything is just like fast paced and everyone's just jumping
Yeah,
from one protocol to another, from one project to another, do they
yeah.
value this stuff?
I mean, yeah, definitely they value these. I would say there are like two levels on these. Number one, I think that like base requirements, like for any normal launch of any crypto company that needs to have. Right now, the standard is like have at least like one audit from a pretty well, at least well-known auditor. That will be number one, and that's something that I will say is more on the required side of things, mostly, and not like something that is good to have. And then the other part, in my opinion, is like to have like a KYC from founders of like from different people, mostly because I actually heard a lot of projects being listed like on exchanges like Kraken, Bybit, and a few others, and also those projects being like run basically rug pulled. So that validation that might be having a big listing party at the other side doesn't represent the security that that company represent to the community. So on what comes to validation from the community, I think this is like the base that we need to start having something that validates the smart contracts and also validates like the fantasy behind that all the sheets. And then, yeah, of course, I think comes things like what we do in ChainPatrol with like brand protection, that in some cases is like really, really important depending on like what's the approach of the company. If it's like a B2C and it has like a specific consumer app or like a DeFi protocol behind, is like really well appreciated that the company is being protected from these, mostly because they will see like all these different pops up scams, and it will pretty much repercute on the company reputation of not having a specific protection on these. So whenever a company usually makes an announcement that they are being protected in different ways, are always appreciated. I don't think that any announcement of security is going to be downtorn by any community in the space.
Yeah, I
Can
think
I
that's
can I can I can
yeah.
I add
Chime in,
some thoughts
Patrick.
there too? So
Good.
I think the current kind of batch of users in DeFi in particular are definitely more risk on, right? They're in kind of this cutting edge industry. You know, DeFi gets hacked, and their tolerance for risk, I think, is higher. That's kind of like our current batch of people. But this again is why I'm working in the security space, because I think smart contracts are just objectively better, pretty much every way you slice it, than what we have kind of in traditional finance, except for the security aspect, which again is why Cyfrin is fighting so hard to make it more secure. And I think that the users of tomorrow, we need to get the users who are risk off, who are like, I don't want to put my money into something that's going to gain 20% APY if it has like a 2% chance to rug pull. Like, I don't want to do that. Like the most people want to take their money, put it into savings. They want to put it into an index fund. They want to put it into like a high yield savings account, and they're only going to do that if kind of the classic institutions who are very security aware say, hey, it's cool. So to me, like, yeah, like kind of the current crypto community is security aware, but like if a protocol says, hey, we're offering 100% APY on your USDC today, yeah, we just launched yesterday, I know for a fact that protocol is going to get $1 billion TVL, because people are going to be like, holy shit, 100% APY, that's crazy, you can't get that anywhere else, we're going in. But maybe not much more than that, right? Because of the risk. So so I think the current community is security aware, but we need to reach a point where the enterprises who are way more security aware go, holy shit, this is I'm getting better APY, I'm getting better consumer guarantees, and it's secured, right? Like, so that's where we need to get to.
do you know that meme where the goose runs after the person and says like, "Hey, where does the APY come from?"
Yep.
I
Yeah,
was just
exactly.
thinking about that. Like
Yep.
this is good for a clip, I guess. And we
Yep.
also cannot forget that we have like zero customer support in crypto. I think this is like one of the most fundamental things that people need to learn when they enter crypto, that there's no undo button. There's no one to like, yeah, take back the money that you send to a wrong person or wrong wallet address and give it back
Yeah.
to you. And I think that that is like my most important thing that your work also like pays forward to, Patrick, because we cannot avoid like these things happening, but we have to be aware that these things will happen, and there's like no undo button or no recovery of stuff that like went to a wrong address or wrong protocol or whatever.
Yeah. I have a couple more hot takes around that, but that maybe a conversation for later.
I wanted to jump in on Battlechain because
Yeah, let's do it.
you have requested to talk about Battlechain, and it's like the perfect moment to talk about. We talked about like devs like getting their feet wet and getting skin into the game, and Battlechain from what I've read, Patrick, you can describe it in plain English if you want to in a second, but from what I've read, it's like post testnet but pre mainnet. So it's kind of like transitioning from this, hey, we have monopoly money, this is like play money we're working with, and then we're not ready yet to deploy to mainnet. So yeah, let's do the introduction, Patrick, for everyone that's not aware. What is Battlechain?
Yeah. So again, kind of going back to what we were talking about before, we look at the industry, we say, where are the holes? Where are the problems? And one of the biggest problems that we've identified, and we brought this up at the $1 trillion security meetup. This has kind of been this is another one, kind of like education, where everyone talks about it, but like it's really hard to actually create like a coherent solution for it. And the problem is with pre-mainnet post audit. What do you do between that period of, okay, the audit's done, you've gone through your findings, and now you're deploying to mainnet? How do you kind of ramp up securely and get TVL? As of today, the guidance is kind of like, yeah, deploy, good luck, right? It's kind of this like, it's like, yeah, you should probably think about bug bounties. You should probably think about safe harbor. You should probably think about, your multi-sig strategy, but it's not like there's not like a coherent, like, this is kind of the path. And so Battlechain is our approach is saying, this is the path. So on Battlechain, the idea is you deploy to Battlechain and you request a tackable. So you've been audited. Typically in your deployment process, you would just deploy to mainnet. But now you deploy on Battlechain first. You request an attack phase where white hats will literally attack your contracts. And there's basically some bounty parameters for however much they're able to recover from your protocol they can keep. And this will simulate like actually being attacked. Because this is crypto. This is the most adversarial environment for your money that has ever existed. Where you deploy a contract and you put money in it, some bot is going to be trying to steal that shit from you. So you put it into an environment where that is expected, with a much smaller amount of funds, so that you can get some Lindy effect. If you're familiar with the term Lindy effect, you get some Lindy effect before you go to mainnet and before you attract retail. So Battlechain is meant for security researchers to attack these projects. And I think it's clever, and this is kind of what we try to do at Cyfrin. We try to trick people into doing best practices. So in order to deploy to Battlechain, we have we created a library called Battlechain lib. And in this library, it goes over, in order to like deploy, you have to set up a safe harbor agreement. You have to set up a security contact. We're working on setting up, forcing you to set up bug bounties, setting up your multi-sig infrastructure, having a deterministic address. All these things that like you don't really kind of think about between the audit and the deployment. A couple of years ago, for a while, my push was, hey, like put your deploy scripts in your audit process. That way your auditors can look, because we would see people deploy, screw it up, and oh shit, we just lost 50 grand because we messed up our deployment. Like that's not great. Or hey, oh, we've seen this way too many times. Somebody like forgot some config they set. They had their private key the same as testnet, that they leak somewhere, that they did on mainnet. All these like little things you don't think about in the deployment process have cost people a lot of money, you know. So we're on the ZK Sync Security Council. You know, one of them, and I can talk about this because this is all public information. They had a user on a multisig who had admin capability that they forgot about, right? And this caused this, and they ended up losing $5 million because they had this deploy process that they weren't really following, right? It's all these little things that can be the cause of you losing a lot of money. So Battlechain is this environment to help you ramp up your liquidity in a much safer manner, so that when you do go to retail, they don't get screwed.
Patrick, you touched on safe harbor. I was reading upon that because I did donations in the Ethereum security round as well. And Seal has this kind of they wanted to deploy a standard for the safe harbor agreements. And for everyone listening who's not familiar with safe harbor, at least if I understood it correctly, it's basically an agreement that you agree white hat hackers to quote unquote attack you and steal your stuff, and then giving it back for a bug bounty. Patrick, is that correct?
Yeah, that's more or less correct. So there's a lot of large protocols have opted into the safe harbor agreement. So there's a mainnet safe harbor agreement, which is it's very niche. It's very specific. It's basically giving white hats who front run black hats permission to do so. So let's say you're a white hat and you see in the mempool somebody stealing $10 million from a protocol. If you have a safe harbor agreement and you front run the $10 million being stolen and you take it yourself, if they have a safe harbor agreement, you're legally covered to do that. It's kind of equivalent to, in today's day and age, if you saw a bank robber robbing a bank, it's like you going in, stealing the money first, which if you did that in our society, you would go to jail for robbing the bank. You can't steal the money first. It's kind of this same weird scenario on chain. If you steal the money before the black hat does, if you don't have a safe harbor agreement, you could technically get sued, and the police would come after you. So if you have a safe harbor agreement, you're legally allowed to basically do that. So, but it's the mainnet safe harbor agreement says it's very explicit, where there has to be a hack happening. You can't initiate an attack. If you see a vulnerability, you still have to do a proper responsible disclosure. But if somebody else is attacking it, that's permission to go ahead. On Battlechain, if you're under this attack mode, we actually give you explicit permission to initiate the attack, because we want to simulate that environment. So, but it's even on Battlechain, it's very specific. You can only attack when these specific parameters are met. But yeah, so the Seal have their safe harbor agreement, and the Battlechain, we've worked with Seal. They gave us permission to modify it, so we also have the Battlechain safe harbor agreement, which is slightly different.
Okay. Would you agree with me when I say that testnets basically are too low stakes for real testing, quote unquote, and the main net is too expensive to be hacked or
Yep.
exploited?
Yeah, exactly. So today, what a lot of people do, and a lot of our clients have done this, is they'll just deploy to a chain they don't really care about, which is fine. You can do that, but it does create this very awkward scenario where a retail user's real funds could accidentally go into your attack simulation, and then their funds get stolen, and now it's this weird they're like, hey, give us our money back, and then you're like, oh no, this was a testing protocol, haha, you shouldn't have used it. And now it's this weird what do you do? And a lot of people say, oh, well, they're just stupid. You just tell them they're stupid. If somebody who's just stupid puts $100 million into this project and they lose $100 million, they're coming after you. I don't care if you're oh, you're just dumb for putting $100 million in. They're coming after you. So having it on Battlechain has these legal protections.
What would this scenario look like when you say, Patrick, hey, you guys are definitely not ready for mainnet?
There's a lot of scenarios. I guess one of the simplest ones, if you come to Cyfrin and we do a security review for you, if we turn around and we go, hey, we found 10 highs, a bunch of mediums, a bunch of lows, to me, that's enough that hey, you're not ready. If we found 10 highs, there's a good chance we spent a lot of time validating these 10 highs, writing up the report for the 10 highs. Like we're working with our agents to find these vulnerabilities too. And that means all that time that we're writing up these reports and validating these reports, we aren't finding more bugs. So if we find 10 highs, there's a pretty damn good chance you got more bugs in that code base that we didn't uncover. So that's usually one. Hey, there's bugs in the code base. There's lots of like more like high level like code smells, like code maturity smells that can go in. But like again, this is why we set up Battlechain. There's all these things you don't think about like after the audit into the deployment that we want to catch in Battlechain, so that you didn't know you needed to have your deployment key different from your admin key. Great, that's going to come out in Battlechain. You didn't know that ramping up or down liquidity in this way was going to cause issues. Great, that's going to come out in Battlechain. And so yeah, that's literally why we made Battlechain, to have kind of this catch-all, like, okay, is there anything else you need to think about? Great, we're going to find out in Battlechain.
Juan, question to you again, like from a user or community's perspective, would you think that this like increases the trust on the brand itself when it has like battle tested its contracts or its project?
Yeah, no question on that. I think if you have validation, if you have like the badge, if you have like the experience behind, like, I don't know, Cyfrin in this case, all the work that they are doing, all the validation that they have over the last years, definitely something that any community member will see it and say, okay, I'm more willing to invest in this project. Maybe my investment is not to be rug pulled. Maybe it's a little bit risky. So definitely makes sense.
Patrick, would you say this is a thing that users should start demanding from their projects? I mean, obviously you are saying yes because it's your product, but like from a global point of view, would a user like do something good to the project if they start like demanding these kind of active work on the protocols?
Yeah, so I actually love this question. I think it's more in depth than a lot of people might think. So, 6 years ago, if you deployed your smart contract code to mainnet without an audit, like it was like, okay, sure, whatever, right? And then we as a community were like, that is unacceptable. You must do a security review. And now if you deploy without a security review, you're going to get lampooned, right? And I don't love lampooning people, but like at the same time, like, yeah, like it's 2026. Like if you do not have a an external third-party security review, you've made a terrible misstep. You are not following best practices. And basically I want to get Battlechain to that same kind of level of recognition, right? Like in where it's like, oh, you didn't kind of run through this liquidity ramp up period. You just fired it right into production right away. That's insane. That's why Battlechain's here, so you can have this safe ramp up of liquidity, so that you can catch all these edge cases that you might not have thought about before. And we're looking to get to the same level where the community looks at a project and goes, you didn't deploy on Battlechain, you've made a terrible misstep.
I learned that basically, when I think about it, is that your protocol shouldn't meet an attacker for the first time if you are on mainnet.
That exactly. That is such a good way to put it. Yeah, like you should crypto
like
is
you should meet attackers before you go to mainnet.
Exactly.
Don't meet them in mainnet.
You should meet attack, but before retail sticks their life savings in your protocol, you should have attackers try to destroy you. Like that is exactly right.
Yeah, that's a great way.
And if you survive, perfect. And if you don't survive, great. We just saved retail from getting destroyed and from making our industry look stupid.
Okay, another way people were getting attacked, Patrick, is clear signing. And I wanted to touch on this because we have like 15 minutes left maybe, and I definitely wanted to talk about this because I think yesterday the news was pushed that Ethereum is going to go with the clear signing initiative, which also was part of the trillion security round, I guess. And you guys at Cyfrin were heavily involved. Can you explain to the user who's maybe interested in this but hasn't heard about it yet what clear signing actually is and what the opposite was before?
Yeah. So maybe heavily involved is the wrong word. You know, we were involved. Like there's definitely other people in the group who did a lot more work than we did, right? Um, but sorry, the question was what was involved. What was the specific question?
Question was like to the listener, what is clear signing, what it's gonna improve, and what was the state before we got this?
Yeah, amazing question. So it's been something at Cyfrin and on Cyfrin Updraft we've kind of been raving about for some time, because part of my job is like to teach people how do you verify what you're signing is what you want to sign. And for the last forever, basically 11 years, if you go to sign a transaction in DeFi, you get your hardware wallet. I have 1,000 hardware wallets here. You get your transaction here, and cool. We both have the key card.
We're one of brothers, I guess.
Hey, oh hell yeah! So you get your transaction on your hardware wallet, and it says, all right, hey, would you like to sign this? Yes or no? And it gives you 18 pages of random numbers and letters. And if one of those random numbers or letters is different than what you expect, you could potentially lose all your money. And that was the status for 10, 11 years. And so last year, the timing was crazy. I made a video on like how to verify your call data on your, with a multi-sig wallet on your hardware wallets. And like the next month, the Bybit hack happened, which it just like, are you kidding me? But what was happening?
Did you get them ideas maybe?
Well, no. So the reason that I made the video and the content was because of the Radiant Capital hack. So the Radiant Capital hack was basically the same thing. They signed a transaction on their hardware wallet that they didn't know they didn't know how to verify what was on the hardware wallet. And what ended up happening in both Bybit, Radiant, and like a few other cases was the hackers took. I'm gonna gloss over a little bit for the viewers, but essentially the attackers took over the domain, or they were able to inject malicious data into the domain. And so the users were looking at their screen. It says, hey, do you want to make this routine transfer that you make all the time, and all this data looks totally normal, and like the to and the from, everything looks correct? So on their computer screens, they go, okay, like, yeah, that is exactly what I want to do. Yep, send to my hardware wallet. Between them hitting send, the attackers would show them like the correct transaction, but send to their hardware wallets a malicious transaction. So since they couldn't verify, since they didn't know how to like verify the data on their hardware wallet was correct, they just signed it, and boom, that's how they lost. For Bybit, it was $1.4 billion. For Radiant, 50 million. I mean, it happened in Solana very recently with Drift. It was like $280 million. It's the exact same thing. I mean, like not the exact same thing, but like basically the same thing, right? They send a malicious payload. They thought they were signing one thing, but what they were actually signing was something else. So clear signing, very long-winded here. So clear signing is the ability to, when you get that payload, verify on your hardware wallet it is what you want it to be. And this is actually a tougher problem than a lot of people think, because hardware wallets, most of them are air-gapped on purpose. And air-gapping them means, they're not connected to the internet. They're essentially not connected to the internet. And the reason we like this is because we don't want random firmware getting installed on our hardware wallet so that hackers can steal stuff. So you run into this problem of, okay, how do we keep it air gapped, but make the wallet smart enough to like be able to take this random jarble of hex and convert it to like something we can, read in plain English or whatever your native language is. So clear signing is basically the ability to do this. So what happened earlier this week was the 7730 registry, which was originally created by the Ledger team, which is again why I want to say that Ledger and a lot of the hardware wallets they definitely worked a lot more on this than we did. We just yelled about the problem very loudly, and we're still kind of working with them to help design like the processes and stuff, and we're one of the descriptor auditors, but that's another conversation. But yeah, so this registry was released. This registry is essentially a giant list of, hey, here's how you convert this call data to English. If you are a hardware wallet, here is kind of this universal, registry you can read from to convert this call data that way, instead of on your hardware wallet saying, hey, do you want to sign 0x74321 blah 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 random numbers. It'll say, hey, do you want to sign swapping 100 USDC for 0.1 ETH or whatever? Do you want to sign sending your friend $7 instead of do you want to sign random numbers and letters? So that's what clear signing is.
Patrick, you just said it's like a universal standard, basically. And what's so important about being like a neutral, quote unquote, standard, and not being like a solution every wallet or every dApp does on its own?
Yeah, great question. So having kind of a universal standard here is like, hey, here's how we all kind of wallets can collectively agree on how to convert this call data. And that way, if you're using Ledger, Trezor, Keycard, Grid Plus, Keystone, whatever hardware wallet you're using, the text that's going to show up is going to be the same, and we can basically all agree on how to do this. It's really similar to like the ERC20, right? Before we had the ERC20 standard, all these tokens kind of had their own flavor. So if you're a DeFi protocol trying to be like, oh, we want to gain yield on tokens, if tokens have different function calls, you have to do all these weird customizations. But we all said, hey, this is what an ERC20 looks like. Everyone follow the standard. Boom. Now we have all these amazing DeFi integrations. Same thing with this, right? Here's how you kind of translate this call data English. Great. All these hardware wallets can follow suit and go for it. Now, there are like a couple of hiccups in the standard that are still being worked on, but they're all very solvable. And so we're still working on solving them now. Like one of them that's probably, in my opinion, the most important one is called like the wire protocol update to 7730, where delivering this massive amount of data to hardware wallets is still kind of a problem, right? Because the registry is online and your wallet is intentionally offline. So how do you do it in like a cryptographically secure manner? So that's like one of the next phases of this ERC that is being worked on right now.
Who would you say has the most work to do to implement like a standard like this? Is it wallet providers? Is it actually like the protocols, or?
It's a little bit of both. So if you're a hardware wallet, like you definitely have to do some engineering to get this supported on your wallet. If you're a protocol, there's actually some work here too, where you need to kind of make a pull request to this registry saying, here's how you like translate my call data into human readable text. Yeah, like it's a little bit trickier than just like, oh, here's how you do it, because there's all these like edge cases of, oh, what if the call data is this? The intent might be different. And what if you're behind a proxy and you can upgrade your intent? Is this secretly a way to rug pull people? There's all these other things to think about. There's a little bit of extra work for everybody, but I think at the end of the day, the gains are so valuable that it's worth it. Actually, you talk about work that's required. If I might continue my rant here, as I seem to just keep doing, it's also part of the reason why. So we at Cyfrin, we authored ERC 8213, which is basically saying, hey, if because I know at Cyfrin we sign contracts that aren't going to have the time to get into this registry all the time. We're on several security councils. Projects are doing upgrades. They're launching contracts with tons and tons of functions and call data. It's going to take a long time to review, and we still need to sign, or we need to do emergency upgrades because there's an attack in progress. There's all these reasons why we might need to sign something quickly. But we still run into this issue of verifying call data. So right now, if you have a project that isn't in this registry and you need to sign something with 25 pages of call data, are you clicking through 25 pages and making sure that every single character is correct? Like that's insane. That's what I do today, and that's what I hate. There's the solution 8213 that we came up with is you hash your call data into a single hash, and now all you need to verify is, okay, is this single hash what we expect? And the reason I was holding up the key card shell It's because they are the first ones who implemented 8213, and I am so proud of them for doing that. So now when I have to sign some giant transaction with a project that isn't in the registry, I only have to go through one single hash instead of 60 pages of call data, which is a phenomenal improvement on my workflow. So that is, in my opinion, the fallback to 7730 is 8213, and we are very proud to be the authors of that, and hope more wallets adopt it.
Yeah, it's great work. I was on the spaces with Keycard yesterday, and we talked about like they are having like the upside that they are basically a pretty small team, and they aren't like a huge blown out of proportion like company which has to go through several hoops to implement
Yep.
stuff. So they are pretty flexible still, which is like in Web3. I mean, speed matters, but it's not everything. But like to close this one off, I think we're about to near the hour. I was just debating with you guys that the UX we allowed for years in crypto, it's pretty insane to me that people were still signing these hashes without like, I don't know what's going on. I'm still gonna sign that. Like whatever, man. It's pretty insane. And my question would be to you, Patrick and Juan, like if the user doesn't understand what he's signing, I mean, he shouldn't be signing that. That's one thing. But can we really blame them for signing what they don't understand because we don't serve them in a proper way, or didn't serve them in a proper way? I might say.
You want to go first? I have an answer. I have an answer ready to go, but it sounds like you want to go first.
Well, I mean, we are responsible for actions. That's number one. If we need to rush, I don't know, a DeFi protocol is like having like an attack. You are going to sign like anything to try to get out, and the user will try to do it anyways. And we can't blame them because it was like built that way for them. I think we need to get better. But definitely, if those situations happen, me personally, I would just try to sign whatever I need to get out. I mean, I just try to put me in that situations, because if we are like in the ideal situation where we can think, where we can analyze everything that we are signing, we are trying to do it like in a slow environment. That's one thing. But if you are like rushing or need to get out from some reason, the only thing you can do is to keep on clicking. What do you think, Patrick?
So I think at the end of the day, you are ultimately responsible for your finances. If you sign something that is wrong, it is your fault. If you do not know how to verify what you're signing, it is your fault. So I say, okay, well then, given that premise, nobody should use DeFi except for super security nerds, because super security nerds are the only ones who can do that. And if we take that premise, then, okay, only super security nerds can use crypto. Well, okay, then we have failed crypto has failed as a project. So if crypto has failed as a project, if blind signing is a thing, then we have a very, very real, very, very large systemic issue that we must solve. And we ignored it for 10 years because it was a problem people did not want to solve until North Korea went, holy shit, they forgot about this. We're going to kill it. We're going to make bank. And then we went, oh shit, this problem that we all knew about, but we all chose to ignore because we were like, nobody cares. It's fine. Has really, really fucked us. And now we need to solve it very quickly because it's being exploited right now. So that is my answer.
Okay, I have a last one for the quickfire round, which I was preparing, which we're not gonna do because we're already on 1 hour in. But this is for you guys both. One sentence only, please. Education or better UX? Patrick, you go first.
No, you go first.
Yeah, you're really smart with me. You can do the answer that question before the question that you did before. That's isn't a fair play. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. Actually, here I'll go first. I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna go with better UX, but I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say better UX because you could just put in the UX like, hey, do you know what this means? If not, click here, and that leads them to education. So, I cheated. I got to make my cake and eat it too.
I want to do the same, but the other way. Better education, but with better try to solve that.
Great. That's a great wrap. We can force them to watch tutorials,
Yeah,
I guess,
perfect.
instead of ads. Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Hey, do you want to sign this transaction? Watch this 40-minute
You will be
tutorial.
forced to watch the Cyfrin updraft course. That's for
funny.
sure. Patrick, was a pleasure meeting you. Juan, thank you for taking the time. Was a great space. I think we're gonna have you on again, Patrick, because my notes are still like pages long, but we're gonna meet again, I guess.
Oh, and for people watching, definitely go check out Cygent. That's our AI security agent. We recently released. We didn't get to talk about it, but it's phenomenal. So go check that out too.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you.